Yes. And we're back live. Okay. I did the count yesterday between those, or not yesterday, the other day, but between those who were not in the classroom and those who were not in the live stream. And I had 14 students technically absent the other day. What did you all do for senior skip day anyway? At Wally's?
Yeah, it's like half our school was there.
Where's Wally's?
In Surf City.
God, I've never heard of that restaurant. All right. Really? All right. I'm just saying, my kid goes to school on the island. I've never heard of that restaurant. No. Anyway, goodness gracious. See, back in my day, we just went to the Stafford Diner like a respectable person. I remember on my the night of my senior trip, because we went to Disney World, like, you know, a senior class does, and our plane was leaving at like 3 a.m. for some reason. I don't know why. So what me and my friends decided to do, like morons, is we decided to stay up all night, and we went to the diner at like 9 p.m., and we stayed at the diner till about 1 or 2 a.m. It's pretty messed up. And then we drove to the school, got on the bus, went to the airport, didn't sleep the entire night. That was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. I passed that at some point. I don't know when. Good times. Back to this. So, I have you today. Now, just to walk through a little bit of what today has in store and next week has in store, etc. Obviously, today you do have an assessment due for me. You do have an assessment due for me that was posted online earlier this week. I believe I had it due at the end of the school day. I'm pretty certain of that. Yep, there it is, 2 p.m. So there is still time to get that done. But please make sure you are jumping on that. Number 2, next week. Next week, I have you, Tuesday, Thursday, correct? Yes. Thursday is now I'm going to put this in quotes. Thursday is a half day. But in reality, you're getting out at the exact same time you normally do at 11:40. So it's not a half day for you. But it's a half day for me. I get to leave at 11:40. Good for me. But yeah, that'll be the pretty much, next week. Then when does that actually occur? I want to say it's April 26th. Is April 26th when they change the schedule again? Yeah, something like that. Have they told you how it's going to change? It's a weird thing that they haven't fully explained to us yet. But basically, it's like we used to have 84-minute class periods, right? Now we have 60-minute class periods. So it's like we'll still have those 60-minute class periods, but we'll have an additional 24 minutes of like intervention time or something like that. Like, what are we doing with that intervention time? I think I might just want to keep teaching. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But they haven't really given us much instruction as to how we're to handle that. Well, we'll see. Yeah. But it would be a full day, and you'd get to go all the way to 2 o'clock, or not 2 o'clock, 1:50, whatever. It'd be so weird. The first week that we do that, I guarantee we're going to have a lot of students so exhausted. Anywho, as for today. Now, last class, we deep dived a bit farther into t-testing and explaining a lot of the details behind that. I wanted to take today and possibly Tuesday, I haven't decided yet, to do a little bit of an inventory. And what I mean by that is this. I have in PDF form ready to be posted the 2012 AP Stat Test multiple choice. Now, this would be more of a practice inventory. I want to know where you guys are at in terms of the multiple choice questions that we have covered in class. I shouldn't say covered in class, but the topics that we have covered in class. There are 40 questions, but not all of them we have covered yet. What I would like to do as a class, for those of you that are here and those of you that are online, is I would like to share with you that PDF, and then we are going to go through each question one at a time. I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer the question for yourself within a reasonable amount of time, and you're going to record what your answer would have been if you had taken the test for real. Then we will review said question and you will see whether or not you would have gotten it correct. I would like you to keep that running tally of correct versus incorrect for the duration of however many questions we end up going through. Now, again, this is not going to count as a grade because it's an inventory. I want to see where we're at. I want to see how you would have handled the problems given that you would have taken the test today, per se, or something along those lines. And then when all is said and done, I would like you to, well, there will be an assignment on Google Classroom to do it, but it won't be graded. But for you to submit to me what score you would have gotten out of those 40 questions. It's a weird kind of inventory that I'm trying to experiment with, but I'm trying to do something where I can also involve the people that are online. And yes, by the way, if you haven't left a comment in the chat, please make sure that you do so. So what I'm going to suggest to you is this. I would suggest having the Chromebooks ready to go, have them out, get onto Google Classroom, because I am about to post the PDF that I was referencing. Now, in terms of how you are answering the questions, I'm going to suggest don't look back on your notes. This is an honor system thing. It doesn't count as a grade. But don't look back on your notes to try and answer the question. See if you can answer the question with everything that you have in your mind. And, well, you also have that calculator as well, that Chromebook calculator to kind of help you along the way. Yes, you're probably going to need, like, a separate sheet of paper to do scratch work on and to keep track of whether or not you got the answer right or wrong. So, like, for example, I would suggest along the left side, like, oh, here's number 1. Here's me. Here's the actual answer or whatever. Just keep like a little, I don't know. I picked A and the answer was B. So clearly I got it wrong. So maybe I put like an X there or something. I don't know. However, you want to keep track of that because ultimately, when all is said and done, I would like you to submit what score you would have gotten to me. You don't have to share this with anyone else. I just want that information. But obviously, if you get it correct, it's like, oh, it was A, and the actual answer is A. So check, smiley face. I don't know, some junk like that. So let me post this PDF to you. I have this thing ready to go, right? Boom, right there. I'll flip my screen over just for visual reference. Oh, come on, post. There it goes. Update stream, PDF for today, multiple choice thing. So this thing is like 36 pages. And the reason why it's 36 pages, because for the most part, they put like one question per page on the actual AP multiple choice test, which is weird to me, but whatever. Chapow. Now, there actually is one question on here that they did not include as a part of the test. Like they gave the question and then they ultimately decided to remove the question. I'm not really sure on the details as to why, because those are the people who make the test. That's College Board's deal. Let me take this link and let me put it in the Google, we'll put it in the chat. Just so if they can't see it, they can see what we're dealing with. And like I said, please keep track as to which ones you got right, which ones you got wrong. Don't try to erase anything. Don't be like, oh, no, I got that. All right, so some of the questions do not require any scratch work whatsoever. Some of the questions is just simply a matter of utilizing the correct function on the calculator. It really depends. But we're going to go through these one at a time. And like I said, in the end, you are going to submit to me the score that you would have gotten. And I would also like to see, any of the scratch work that you would have done as well. So obviously keep track and organized of that information. How long, on average, is it suggested that you spend on a multiple choice question? How long, on average, is it suggested that you spend on a multiple choice question? 2 minutes and change. Like 2 minutes, 15 seconds on average. You need that average for yourself to be less than 2 minutes, because you want that extra time at the end to be able to go back and check problems that maybe you needed to spend a little bit more time on. Here's the other thing. Obviously, any scratch work that you did, if you get it wrong, it's wrong. Don't leave any blank. Do not leave any multiple choice blank on this test. You never know what's going to happen. So, first question, let me just scroll down a little bit just for the sake of visual. Come on, you. Scroll. Boom. On the following dot plots, they ask which represents the set of data that has the greatest standard deviation. On the following dot plots, which represents the set of data that has the greatest standard deviation? Now, like I said, I am going to go over these one at a time with you and explain whether or not you should have been able to do the problem, or if we haven't actually covered it yet, things of that nature. I'll give you another 20 seconds. Okay, make your call, make your decision, make your letter. If you haven't written it down, make sure you've written it down, because I'm about to give you what the correct answer should have been. The correct answer to this particular problem should have been B. Should have been B. Obviously, give yourself a check if you get it right. Give yourself an X if you get it wrong. No changing it out. But why does B have the greatest standard deviation? The standard deviation, by definition, talks about, on average, how much does each data point deviate from the mean? How much does each data point deviate from the mean? Well, this data point deviates in the positive. This data point deviates in the negative. The mean for all of these is right in the middle. The mean for all of these is clearly right in the middle because they are all symmetric. B is the one that should have the largest standard deviation because it has the most data points farthest from the mean. It has the most data points farthest from the mean. Bless you, bless you. So, that is why that answer was B. Let's scroll them down. Number 2. A random sample of 374 United States pennies, I have a problem with that, was collected, and the age of each penny was determined according to the box plot below. What is the appropriate interquartile range of the ages? Can anyone tell me why I have a problem with them calling it a penny? If you look at a U.S. penny, I'm holding up one right now just for those people in the chat. Nowhere on here does it say penny. It doesn't. It says cent. It's not a penny. Anyway. I'm going to keep actually track of this. So that first one, I believe I had it as B. 2, we don't know yet. Bring these down. There we go. Okay. Interquartile range should have been one of those quick and easy problems to get done. If you haven't selected the answer, please make sure that you have selected your answer. But they wanted to know, what is the interquartile range? The interquartile range is calculated as Q3 minus Q1. Now, in this case, because of the shape of the box and whisker plot, whatever data point that is, that would be Q3, And whatever data point that is, that would be Q1. They want to know what is the approximate interquartile range, meaning we're going to have to estimate what this thing should have been. I mean, that could have been like, I don't know, 18 maybe. And this would have been like, I don't know, maybe 3 or some junk like that. Or maybe this was like 19 and this was 3. I mean, it could be 2. But regardless of how you slice it, the closest one you're going to get is C. The closest one you're going to get is C. That is the approximate interquartile range. What the heck is that? What the heck is that? Yeah? Yeah. They probably did the calculation for Q3 plus 1.5 IQR and found, oh, that's probably an outlier. Yeah, so they just put it as a little star. Them weirdos. Yeah, the answer is C here. Give yourself a check. Give yourself an X. Do what you got to do. This is an honor system thing. I want to see where you guys are at with these multiple choice questions. Let's scroll them down. Boom. Number 3. The histogram above shows the number of minutes needed by 45 students to finish playing a computer game. Which of the following statements is correct? This is another one of those questions where literally you should be taking 30 seconds or less and banking that extra time for more difficult problems. But I'm going to give you a few moments to kind of knock that out. Anyone ever heard of the computer game called Myst? MYST? All right, whatever. My wife and I are currently, after the kids go to sleep, we were playing this computer game called Myst, which is a game from like 15 years ago. But it's like basically this 3D world in which you're on like a planet. But then the planet itself is a puzzle. And you have to find clues within the planet, moving around and interacting with things in order to unlock the next part, in order to escape said planet to get back to a central hub. It's like a giant room escape, except the room isn't just a room. The room is a planet. Anyway, back to this. The answer, again, make sure you have yours marked down for number 3. This thing is definitely skewed. Now, one thing I will point out, we have not covered chi-squared yet. We have not covered chi-squared yet. We should be getting to chi-squared before the AP test. Keep that in mind. We should be. Usually chi-squared is one of the last things that we cover in AP Stat. I know that in some science classes, you guys might be covering something with chi-squared. Yeah, a few of you are nodding yes. Okay, that's fine. What class is that, by the way? Bio. Okay. I've had a conversation with her on the phone about it, but I'm like, yeah, we don't get the chi-squared until MER, but that's okay. This thing should be skewed to the left. The answer is B. Clearly it's B. It's skewed to the left. It's definitely not normal. Uniform would be flat across the board. The direction of the skewness is where the tail is. And this thing tails off to the left. That is where the average is being pulled. The average is being pulled to the left in the direction of the skewness. Number 4. A bank surveyed all of its 60 employees to determine the proportion who participate in volunteer activities. Which of the following statements is true? Now, again, this is why I sent you that PDF so that you could take some time and actually read on your computer screens what the 5 choices are rather than strain at what the screen is saying. So take a little time, read that, select the choice that you want to make. when you go through the multiple choice on the AP test in May, you will come across questions that are designed to trip you up and to troll you. They are designed to trip you up and to troll you. And I want to explain why this one is attempting to do it. It's attempting to troll you, but it doesn't really hide it that well. A bank surveyed all of its 60 employees to determine the portion who participate in volunteer activities. Which of the following statements is true? The bank should not use the data from the survey because it's an observational study. The bank can use the results of the survey to prove that working for the bank causes employees to participate in volunteer activities. The bank did not select a random sample, so the survey will not provide them with useful information. Now, that one sounds good as you read through it. That one sounds good. I mean, clearly, it's not a random sample, but D, the bank would have to use the survey data to construct a confidence interval in order to estimate the portion of employees who participate in volunteer activities. Well, I mean, they could try to do a confidence interval, but there's something else going on. The answer is E. The answer is E. The bank does not need to use an inference procedure. Hypothesis test or confidence interval doesn't have to do any of that to determine the portion of employees to participate in volunteer activities because it was a census. A census is typically not a great idea because it costs too much money, it takes too much time. But in this instance, there's only 60 employees, and it clearly states at the beginning, a bank surveyed all of its 60 employees. So it doesn't need to do any type of inference procedure. It had a census. The answer is E. Again, this is where they try to begin tripping you up. This is where they begin to try to trip you up. Number 5. Yeah, there we go. The histogram below displays the frequencies of waiting times in minutes for 175 patients in a dentist office. And then they ask which of the following could be the median of the waiting times in minutes. I'll give you a shorter amount of time than before, but let's see what you can do with this. That's 5. There we go. Okay, make sure you have made your choice. A median, obviously, is the middle data point. A median is the middle data point. There are 175 patients at that dentist office. 175 patients at that dentist office. If we were to cut that in half to find the middle data point, that would be 80, 85, 86, 87, 87.5. It'd be around the 87th or 88th, possibly figure that out. But if we're trying to do that, then boom, the first block right here takes up about the first 80 people. And then the second block right here takes up the next 50 people. The median has to be within this block. The median has to be within that block. And the only number that fits that is B. That is the answer to this problem. Like I said, usually within the first 10 to 15 questions, you will get some nice gimme problems. Your job is to hit those gimme problems quick and fast and correctly. That is your job. Then when you get to the more difficult problems, Gets a little bit more difficult. Now again, AP test. You are not competing against the test. You are competing against every student who is taking the test on that day in America. Your job is to outscore 40% or more of the students who are taking the test on that day. That is your job. So if your job is to outscore 40% of those students in order to pass the AP test, you have to assume they're going to get questions like this correct all day long. So you getting this correct is just keeping you even with them. Your job is to separate yourselves from them by getting the more difficult, tricky questions right. Let's go down to number 6. Boom. Data were collected, never get used to that. Data were collected on the amount in dollars that individual customers spent on dinner in an Italian restaurant. The quartiles for these data are given below. Which of the following statements must be true for these customers? Take a moment, read it through on your computer, see what you get. If I were a student going through this question, I would read that first statement and I would think to myself, well, I mean, that first statement's true. It definitely is. I mean, it says at least half. You don't usually see Q2. You usually don't see it written as Q2. What is Q2? The median. Yeah, it's like, what the heck, right? At least half of the customers spent less than $44.27, and at least half spent greater than. Yeah, that's true. Always take a moment to just double check and read the rest of the choices. You don't want to be caught in this situation where they trolled you with a question. 75% of the customers spent between $36.27 and $58.97. No, that should be 50%. That's 50% of the data. 25% of the customers spent less than or equal to $58.97. No, that's 75% spent less than that. And the remaining 25 spent more than that. Okay. The mean amount spent by customers is $44.27. It could be. It might be. But we don't know that. We don't know if the mean was $44.27 or not, because they are asking which statements must be true. I mean, we could just separate this with median, but again, mean, I mean, it could be, but it must be true. A majority of customers spent $44.27. Again, we don't know that. We don't know that. We don't know where the peak took place. If it was symmetric, if the data was symmetric and normal, then yeah, it would be about $44.27. But if it was skewed either to the left or the right, then that majority would have been pulled down or pulled up. The answer has to be A. This is one of those things that they do. They give you a gimme question, Oh, it's like one of the first couple choices. And then they give you all the rest of this junk just to kind of like, I don't know, not waste your time. But we have to be able to go through these questions swiftly. We have to be able to get them correct. Let's go down to number 7. The weight of adult male grizzly bears living in the wild in the continental United States is approximately normally distributed, with a mean of 500 pounds and a standard deviation of 50 pounds. The weight of adult female grizzly bears is approximately normally distributed, with a mean of 300 pounds and a standard deviation of 40 pounds. Approximately, what would be the weight of a female grizzly bear with the same standardized score, Z-score, as a male grizzly bear with a weight of 530 pounds? This one you can do. This one I'm going to give you a little bit more time. This is the one where you're going to have to do a bit more calculations if you want to get the exact answer. Let's see what you get. Okay. I am going to show you how I calculated this quickly in a moment, but make sure you have your answer selected. Obviously, if this were you in the test, you'd have the time to kind of spend on this, but I want to try to get you used to spending a little less than 2 minutes per problem. 2 minutes goes by very quickly. If you were to do this problem, you would need to recognize the following formula for calculating z-scores. Bless you. Bless you. They don't tell you what the z-score is for an adult male grizzly bear, but you are going to have to calculate that. Let's see if I can get that here. Boom. Good. There we go. So let's see. Come on, you. Has the same of an adult male bear with 530 pounds. 530 pounds minus 500 divided by 50 would be that standard deviation. This would be the z-score. This would be the z-score for the adult male grizzly bear, the adult male. But they're saying that a female with the same z-score, how much would that female bear weigh? So if I were to do this calculation, now I'm just going to type it out with a variable, but you'll see what happens. It would be like, okay, some data point minus 300 divided by 40 should, where's my logic here? There it is, equal 0.6. Now I'm going to delete that in a minute because that's not going to do anything for me. But that's the equation that I'm going to have to solve. I can multiply by 40 and then just add 300. As long as you understand the structure of that formula, you could easily use your algebra skills. Again, I did not teach you algebra. I'm assuming that either you are awesome at algebra or when I say the word algebra, you get that tingly feeling down your spine. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Now, to solve this again, kind of like the opposite of the order of operations, I got to multiply by 40 and add 300. The answer should be 324 pounds. The answer should be B. And it is. The answer is B. For bear. I have no idea if they actually planned that. There is no rhyme or reason to these letters in terms of what they choose. All else fails, abacadabra. You guys know abacadabra? No? Abacadabra. It's a word made up of nothing but A, B, C, and D. Okay, whatever. Number 8. Now this is getting into some nicer stuff. A company sells concrete in batches of 5 cubic yards. The probability distribution of X, the number of cubic yards sold in a single order for concrete from this company, is shown in the table below. The expected value of the probability distribution of X is 19.25. Oh, so they already did that for you. Expected value. And the standard deviation is 5.76. Now, just for the sake of argument, if they did not give you these two numbers, you could easily figure out what these two numbers are. If you simply input the number of cubic yards into L1 and the probability into L2, we've talked about that, where you would run a 1-var stat with L1 and L2 in there, and it would spit out that information. I may show you that after this. There is a fixed cost to deliver the concrete. The profit Y, different variable, for a particular order can be described by Y equals 75x minus 100. They want to know what is the standard deviation of Y. I'm going to give you roughly 30 seconds or so. Okay. Make sure you have your answer selected. Let's see what we got here. This is number what? This is number 8? Yes, number 8. The thing that you got to know, yes, that formula Y equals, what was it, 75x minus 100. That would affect each individual data point. But they want to know what the standard deviation of Y is. And if we were to get this standard deviation of Y, yep, there it is. We would have to recognize that standard deviation is mainly affected by addition subtraction. Multiplication division. I'm losing my mind. I'll do my little spiel with the normal curve. If I had a normal curve right here, and I added, which doesn't affect standard deviation, if I added the same number or subtracted the same number, in this case 100, if I subtracted the number 100 from every data point, it would simply shift this thing over, keeping the same standard deviation. Adding and subtracting will not affect your standard deviation. It'll simply shift over the data points and keep the same spread. But multiplication does affect standard deviation, especially if you're doing it to every data point. 5.76 times 75 gives you 432. The answer is B. The answer is B. Just for the sake of argument, I just wanted to show you this skill, remind you of the skill that we've done in the past. Let me get these data points entered, and I can show you what I'm referring to. There we go. Boom. I entered those data points into L1 and L2. This is the cubic yards versus the probability of those cubic yards actually taking place. Zoom in a little. Yes. Now, on my calculator, I believe it does one thing. Oh, that's right. On your calculators, it does something a little bit differently because of the interface. I'll show you both ways. Stat, 1 var stat. In my calculator, I would have to do L1 comma L2. And it would spit out that mean and that standard deviation 5.76. In the problem, they gave it to you. But you would have to run a 1 var stat with L1 and L2. If you were to do it on your calculator, it took us a little bit to figure this out. Come on, calculator. This is the first year I'm working with these calculators on the computer. Here we go. Let me input this data. It was 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. And it was 0.15, 0.25, 0.25, 0.3, and 0.05. There we go. If you hit stat calc and go to 1 var stat, then what we figured out when we did this was for frequency list, you would have to put an L2 right there. That is how frequent those particular events happen for cubic yards. And if you calculate it, bless you, you'll see it gets you the same X bar and it gets you the same standard deviation 5.76. So just one of those little things, but I wanted to make sure that I just showed you that briefly. We've talked about that in the past. The answer was B. Come on, you. Number 9. Oh, here we go. Again, work doesn't have to be shown on these, so you can find these answers in a few different ways. Number 9, based on a survey of a random sample of 900 adults in the United States, a journalist reports that 60% of adults in the U.S. are in favor of increasing the minimum hourly wage. If the reported percent has a margin of error of 2.7 percentage points, which of the following is closest to the level of confidence? Take some time. Let's figure it out. There are a number of different ways. Wait, where's my microphone? There it is. There are a number of different ways to handle this problem, but I need you to realize that if this is a multiple choice question, you don't have to show work. There's a bunch of different ways that you could just fake this problem in order to get to the closest of that level of confidence. I mean, one of the, well, not fastest ways, but one of the most accurate ways of doing this is realizing, okay, they're reporting based on that random sample, 60% of adults. The margin of error is 0.027. I don't know the Z star because that will help me inform the level of confidence times the square root of the standard error. That'll help me get that junk done. If I could solve this, I can get Z star. If I can get Z star, then I can work my way back to get the confidence level. Oh, I'll do it here. There we go. So if I was to do this, I would do a 0.027 divided by the square root of 0.6 times 0.4 divided by 900. That will give me Z star. That is the Z score on the normal curve. But keep in mind, I'm talking about confidence level. If I'm talking about confidence level, I'll do this in red. The red's over there. I'll do it in green. I'm talking about confidence level. It's from 1.653 or negative 1.653 to positive 1.653. That would give me my level of confidence in the middle. So if I just do a normal CDF with this problem, normal CDF of the negative answer, comma, the answer, chapow, it spits out a level of confidence. Now, in this case, this is what, 90.18 or 90.2? But the question just wanted to know which of the following is closest. And clearly that's 90%. It fell. Now, I mentioned there's more than one way to do this problem rather quickly, especially if you consider the fact, where's my marker? There it is. Especially if you consider the fact that you don't have to show any work here. If you don't have to show any work on a multiple choice question like this, you could simply try the following. Check this out. No, not there. There we go. There it is. One prop Z interval, 0.60 times 900. 900 sample size. And then whatever the confidence levels that they're suggesting. In this case, they first suggested 80%. So if I calculate that, does that give me the proper margin of error that they were talking about? Which, in this case, if you actually did this, that's a 2.5% margin of error. Okay, 2.5%, but they want 2.7%. So let me do it again. One prop Z int, but this time with a 90%. I did it with a 90%, but I clicked too fast. One prop Z int with a 90%. Boom. 0.627 minus 0.573 divided by 2. 2.7%, right on the dot. Yep, there it is. The answer is B, once again. And finally, for today, number 10. Just so you guys know, compact discs were these like plastical things that they would imprint music on back in the day. No? Nothing? Okay, whatever. A compact disc manufacturer wanted to determine which of two different cover designs for a newly released CD will generate more sales. The manufacturer chose 70 stores to sell the CD. 35 of these stores were randomly assigned to sell CDs with one of the cover designs, and the other 35 were assigned to sell the CD with the other cover design. The manufacturer recorded the number of CDs sold at each of the stores and found a significant difference between the mean number of CDs sold for the two cover designs. Which of the following gives the conclusion that should be made on the results and provides the best explanation for the conclusion? Take some time, pick an answer. Okay. Make sure you have picked an answer. I'll reveal what the answer should have been in a minute, but make sure you would have picked whatever it is that you wanted to pick. Again, we're trying to get that average under 2 minutes for reading these questions and getting these things done. They say 3 of them say it's not reasonable and 2 of them say it is reasonable. Let's say the reasons for it. Part A says it's not reasonable because they say it wasn't an experiment. I mean, this seems like a pretty good experiment to me. I mean, they're split, they have 2 designs and they're giving, selling one of the designs at one CD store and the other design at the other CD store. They're being separate stores. I mean, I guess it depends, like where the stores are, if they're at like neutral locations or some junk like that. But no, this is an experiment. That one's not right. B, there's no control group for comparison. What the heck would be the control group? Like a CD with no cover? The whole purpose of the experiment is to see if one cover design was better than the other. It's fine. This one doesn't need a control group. It says that the 70 stores were not randomly chosen. I understand the 70 stores were not randomly chosen. That's fine. But 35 of the stores were randomly assigned to sell the one CD and 35 the other. Randomness is taken care of. So it comes down to D or E. It is reasonable because the cover designs were randomly assigned to stores, which they were. But hold on, let me read part E. It is reasonable because the sample size was large. I mean, it could have been larger. But in reality, the sample size being large just determines that you can use a normal CDF, a normal Z-test, rather than a T-test. So that's not really a make or break situation. If the sample size was not large enough, then we could have just done a T-test and came to a similar conclusion. The answer is D, is what I'm getting at. The answer is D. I want you to take stock of something right now. We've been working on this for approximately 45-ish minutes. Now, I took my time. I read the questions out. I may have given you a little bit more time than was needed for some of the questions and shorter time for others. But think about this. 45 minutes is half the time that you have for all of the multiple choice. It's half. We spent about half of your 90-minute multiple choice section working through 10 questions. This is why some students, if they're not working swiftly enough, if they're not completely toned in and focused on what they need to do, they hear, 10 minutes left, deer in headlights. Oh my gosh, I'm only on number 20. Oh my gosh, I'm only on number 25 or whatever. We're going to get there. We will get there. This is a training session. I need you to hold on to these multiple choice answers. I need you to not look into the 2012 questions any further. We're going to continue with this on Tuesday, and then I'll show you, because we're going to skip some questions. You'll see it when we get there. Yeah, and I'll see you on Tuesday, because there is the bell. Ha-ha, nailed it. Anyway, if you haven't left a comment in the chat, please make sure that you do so. I'm going to be submitting whatever it is I'm supposed to be submitting. Thank you, you too. Click. Everything keeps falling. What's going on over there? I don't even know. This kid.